a soldier returned to visit his 8-year-old daughter, and froze when he saw the red marks on her arms. The road to Ridgefield had never felt so long. As the bus curved through the last few miles of winding Virginia hills, Jacob Hayes pressed his forehead lightly against the windowpane, watching the trees rush past in a blur of autumn gold and fading green. After 2 long years deployed overseas, he was finally coming home, not just to the town he had left behind, but to the little girl whose smile had carried him through the longest nights. His heart beat faster the closer he got, a rhythm of anticipation that overpowered even the hum of the engine. It was early afternoon when the bus came to a stop at the town's modest terminal. Jacob stepped off, duffel bag over his shoulder, wearing the same uniform he had worn during countless patrols, but now feeling like a stranger in his own country. The air was crisp and smelled faintly of wood smoke. He took a deep breath. Home. Waiting just beyond the low metal barrier was Amanda, his ex-wife, holding the hand of a small girl with dark brown curls and wide, curious eyes. Lily. 8 years old now. Jacob's eyes locked on hers, and for a second, the world narrowed to a pinpoint of pure emotion. Lily didn't run. She stood still, her expression unreadable, fingers clutching Amanda's hand. Jacob's pace slowed as he approached, unsure of what to say after so much time apart. "Hi, kiddo," he said softly, kneeling to meet her gaze. She tilted her head slightly, as if measuring his face against a memory. Then she broke into a shy smile and stepped forward. Her arms wrapped around his neck with a quiet confidence that said everything words couldn't. Amanda watched them, her expression a mixture of relief and hesitation. "She's been excited all week," she said. "But you know how she gets when she's nervous." Jacob stood, still holding Lily's hand. "She has every right to be. I've been gone too long." Amanda nodded. "Come on. Let's get you home." The car ride was quiet, filled with the small sounds of Lily humming to herself and Jacob watching her in the rearview mirror. Every now and then, their eyes would meet, and she would offer him a soft smile before turning her attention back to the drawing pad in her lap. She was sketching something, he couldn't tell what, but her brow furrowed in concentration the same way Amanda's used to when they were in college. The house hadn't changed much. The shutters were still the same faded blue, and the oak tree in the front yard still leaned ever so slightly to the left. Jacob felt a strange comfort in the familiarity of it. As Amanda parked the car and helped Lily out, Jacob took a long look at the place that used to be his home. He hadn't stayed here since the divorce, but Amanda had offered to let him use the guest room during his short leave. It was generous, considering everything. Inside, Lily led the way, showing him where everything was as if he were a guest in a museum. "That's the kitchen. Mom lets me make pancakes on Sundays," she said proudly. "And that's my reading corner. Only I'm allowed to sit there." Jacob followed, smiling. "Noted. No trespassing in the reading corner." She grinned, pleased, and continued the tour. Amanda lingered in the background, watching quietly. That night, Jacob read Lily a bedtime story, one about a young astronaut traveling through the stars to find his way home. As she drifted off to sleep, he tucked the blanket around her shoulders and paused for a moment, taking in her peaceful face. So much had changed, yet this moment felt timeless. Downstairs, Amanda was making tea. She handed Jacob a mug and sat across from him at the kitchen table. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, just familiar. "She missed you," Amanda said after a moment. "A lot." "I missed her too," Jacob replied. "I missed everything." They talked quietly, careful not to wake Lily. Jacob shared a few stories from his time abroad, sanitized, of course, while Amanda filled him in on Lily's growth over the past 2 years, her new favorite books, the way she refused to eat anything green, and her obsession with outer space. As the evening drew to a close, Jacob felt the weight of his journey start to settle. He was back, but he knew this visit wouldn't fix everything. Rebuilding a bond took time. Still, the first step had been taken. Upstairs, in the dim glow of a night light, Lily stirred slightly in her sleep. Jacob peeked into her room before heading to bed himself. Her arms were outstretched over the blanket, and for a second, he noticed something odd, faint red marks near her elbows. He furrowed his brow but didn't want to disturb her. Probably just scratches from playing outside, he thought. Still, something about it tugged at the edge of his thoughts. He closed the door gently and made his way to the guest room, where a clean set of sheets and a small lamp waited. He sat on the edge of the bed, hands resting on his knees, and stared at the floor for a while before finally lying down. The house was quiet. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees. Jacob listened, wondering what the next few days would bring. Tomorrow, he would ask about the red marks. The morning light filtered through the slats of the blinds, painting long golden stripes across the walls of the guest room. Jacob blinked himself awake, still adjusting to the strange quiet of civilian life. No alarms. No shouting. Just the distant clinking of dishes and the sound of Lily's laughter, muffled by the floorboards. He got dressed quickly, pulling on a sweatshirt and jeans, then made his way downstairs. In the kitchen, Amanda was already preparing breakfast. Lily sat on a tall stool by the counter, legs swinging back and forth as she described something animatedly. Jacob paused at the doorway, watching them. For a moment, it was easy to imagine this as a version of the life he'd left behind. Not perfect, never perfect, but steady. Present. Morning, he said, stepping inside. Lily turned and grinned. We're making waffles. I can see that, Jacob replied, pulling out a chair. Smells like victory. Amanda offered a quiet smile as she flipped a waffle onto a plate. She insisted on cooking for you. Lily beamed with pride. I mixed the batter all by myself. Mom just helped with the hot part. Jacob leaned forward. Then I'm honored. First breakfast back and I get the deluxe treatment. They sat down to eat, and Lily chatted between bites, telling him about her science class, the books she was reading, and how she was learning to whistle. Amanda let her lead the conversation, sipping her coffee and observing the exchange with a softness in her eyes. After breakfast, Jacob offered to do the dishes while Amanda stepped outside to take a phone call. Lily lingered, picking up the last bits of syrup with her fork. Jacob took a moment to look at her more closely, remembering the faint red marks he'd seen the night before. Hey, he said gently, can I ask you something? She nodded, chewing slowly. I noticed some red spots on your arms last night. Are you okay? Lily looked down at her hands, then instinctively tugged at the sleeves of her sweater. It's nothing, Dad. Just from art class. Jacob crouched next to her. Art class? She nodded again, a bit too quickly. Yeah. We were painting. Red paint got on me and it didn't wash off. That's all. Jacob studied her face. She wasn't lying exactly, but she wasn't telling the whole truth either. He could see it in the way she avoided his eyes. Well, he said softly, if anything ever bothers you, you can tell me. No matter what. Lily gave a small shrug, clearly eager to change the subject. Can we go to the backyard later? I want to show you something. Sure, Jacob said, letting it go for now. We'll go after I finish the dishes. Outside, the autumn sun had warmed the yard just enough to make it comfortable. The grass was still a little wet with dew, but Lily didn't seem to mind. She led Jacob to a corner of the garden where a small wooden box sat beneath the shade of a tree. This is my memory box, she explained, kneeling beside it. I keep things here that make me happy. Jacob watched as she opened the lid. Inside were a few small toys, folded pieces of paper, and a photograph of the two of them from when she was 5. He reached for it instinctively. I remember this day, he said. That was just before I left for my last tour. Lily nodded. You said we'd build a rocket together when you came back. Jacob smiled, the memory washing over him with bittersweet weight. Well, I'm back now. And we've got time. They spent the next hour gathering sticks, cardboard, and bits of leftover craft supplies from the garage. Lily's idea of a rocket was less about accuracy and more about color, so they painted it with stars, moons, and glitter. By the end, both of them were covered in specks of red, blue, and gold. Amanda appeared on the porch, laughing at the sight. "You two are a mess." "We're artists," Lily declared proudly. Jacob stood and brushed off his hands. "It's a masterpiece." After cleaning up, the afternoon settled into a peaceful rhythm. Lily went to her room to draw while Jacob sat with Amanda in the living room, both of them enjoying the silence. "She's doing better than she lets on," Amanda said eventually. "But school's been hard." "She told me she has trouble fitting in," Jacob said. "Did something happen?" Amanda hesitated. "There's a group of girls in her class. Not bullies exactly, but, you know how kids can be. Cliques. They make her feel like she's not enough. Not smart enough, not funny enough, not, whatever enough." Jacob nodded slowly, processing. "And the red marks?" "She has mild eczema. Gets worse when she's anxious. The paint from school irritated it. I took her to the pediatrician, he prescribed a cream." Jacob's shoulders eased slightly, though the concern didn't fully leave his eyes. "She said it was from art class." Amanda looked at him. "It was. But she didn't tell you everything, did she?" "No. She doesn't want you to worry. You've been gone so long. She thinks she has to be strong now." That stung. Jacob knew it wasn't Amanda's fault, but hearing that his daughter felt the need to shield him from her struggles made something knot up in his chest. Later that evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Jacob sat on the back porch with a cup of coffee. The stars were just starting to emerge, faint glimmers in the dusky sky. He heard the screen door creak behind him. Amanda joined him, holding her own mug. "I know you want to fix things," she said gently. "But she doesn't need fixing. She needs presence. Consistency." "I know," Jacob said. "That's the hardest part. I want to be here, but I know I can't stay." "You're here now," Amanda said. "Start there." Jacob nodded, staring out at the darkened yard where the memory box still sat beneath the tree. Tomorrow, he decided, he would talk to Lily again. Not about the red marks, not about the eczema, but about what made her feel like scratching. What made her uncomfortable? What made her nervous? He wanted to understand his daughter, not just treat the symptoms. Inside, Lily stirred in her sleep. Her arms were uncovered again, and the marks were faint but still there, just enough to remind him that healing wasn't always visible. And sometimes, it had nothing to do with the skin at all. The days that followed settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and unfamiliar to Jacob. He had always imagined this time at home would be filled with ease, games in the yard, movie nights, shared meals, but instead, he found himself watching carefully, always interpreting silences, hesitations, or too fast smiles. Lily wasn't distant exactly, but there was something reserved in her, like she was figuring out who he was all over again. And maybe he was doing the same with her. On Monday morning, Jacob woke up early, eager to walk Lily to school. Amanda had offered to drive her, as usual, but Jacob insisted on joining them, wanting to see where she spent her days and how she moved through her world. Lily didn't object, but her quiet nod felt more like agreement than enthusiasm. They arrived at Ridgefield Elementary just before the first bell. The school was a modest red brick building, surrounded by swings and benches dotted with backpacks and chattering children. Lily held her father's hand tightly at first, but as they got closer to the entrance, she slowly let go. "Want me to walk you in?" Jacob asked, crouching slightly. Lily shook her head. "It's okay. I know the way." He smiled, though part of him wanted to follow her, just to see what her day was like. "All right, brave one. Have a good day." She nodded again and turned away, backpack bouncing as she walked through the front doors. Jacob remained by the car, watching until she disappeared into the flow of children and teachers. Amanda, who had been quiet during the drive, finally spoke. "She's trying hard to act like everything is normal." "I can see that," Jacob replied. "I just hope she knows she doesn't have to." At home, the house felt too still. Jacob busied himself with small tasks, organizing old boxes in the garage, fixing a loose cabinet door in the kitchen, even replacing a porch light that flickered. The work helped, but his mind stayed with Lily, imagining her at recess, at lunch, sitting alone or maybe trying to fit in with others who didn't understand her. It was harder than he thought, to be present, yet powerless to protect. That afternoon, he picked her up from school. She walked out with a slow shuffle, her backpack slung over one shoulder, head slightly down. When she spotted him by the car, she managed a smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "How was your day?" he asked as she climbed into the back seat. "Okay," she said, unbuckling the strap of her bag. "We had music class." "Did you sing?" She hesitated. "I just listened." Jacob nodded, not pushing. "What did you listen to?" She shrugged. "Something about rivers." It was slow. Back at the house, Amanda was still at work. She had taken on a remote job recently, working as a freelance editor, which gave Jacob more time alone with Lily. They spent the afternoon coloring, their legs crossed on the living room rug. Jacob drew clumsy animals that made Lily giggle, and Lily drew stars with wide faces and long eyelashes. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly, her voice soft. "Of course." "Why did you stay away for so long?" The question was so direct, so honest, it caught him off guard. He put his marker down. "I didn't want to be away," he said. "I was doing a job that asked me to be far, but not a day went by that I didn't think of you." Lily looked at her drawing. "I tried not to forget your voice. But sometimes I did." Jacob's throat tightened. "That's not your fault. I should have called more." "It's okay," she said, almost too quickly. "No," Jacob said, reaching for her hand. "It's not okay. You matter too much for me to have let that happen." She looked up at him, something shifting behind her eyes. Not forgiveness, something quieter. Maybe the beginning of understanding. The next few days passed with slow progress. On Tuesday, Lily let Jacob help with her homework, something she had insisted on doing alone the night before. They sat side by side at the kitchen table, working through a math worksheet. When she got frustrated over a long division problem, Jacob showed her a trick he used as a kid, and she laughed when it actually worked. On Wednesday, he walked her to school again. This time, she pointed out the cracked sidewalk that looked like a dinosaur footprint and showed him the tree near the entrance where squirrels like to hide. She even waved at a girl in a purple jacket, just a small wave, but it felt like something new. That afternoon, Jacob met Amanda on the porch while Lily napped inside. "She's opening up a little," he said. "I've noticed," Amanda replied. "It's been gradual. But she seems lighter." Jacob nodded, then glanced toward the living room window. "Do you think she's happy?" Amanda was quiet for a moment. "She's getting there. That's what this week is about." Thursday brought a surprise. When Jacob picked up Lily, her teacher, Mrs. Wells, stopped him in the hallway. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, offering a polite smile. "Lily's been participating more in class. She volunteered to read a paragraph aloud today. First time all year." Jacob's face lit up with quiet pride. "She didn't mention that." "She might be downplaying it," Mrs. Wells said. "But it was a big step." In the car, Jacob waited until they were halfway home before gently bringing it up. "Heard you did some reading today." Lily glanced at him, then looked out the window. "It was just one paragraph." "Still," he said, "that's brave." "I stumbled on a few words." "Doesn't matter. You tried. That's what counts." She smiled, a little embarrassed, but pleased. By Friday, their routine felt more natural. Jacob woke up early, packed Lily's lunch, walked her to school, and spent the afternoon preparing small surprises, a scavenger hunt in the yard, her favorite dinner, a printed photo from their rocket-building afternoon now framed and sitting on her nightstand. That night, they played a board game in the living room, the laughter coming more freely than before. Lily curled up beside Jacob as the evening wound down, resting her head on his arm. Amanda watched from the doorway, arms crossed lightly, a thoughtful expression on her face. "She used to sit like that with you all the time," she said quietly, more to herself than to him. Jacob looked down at his daughter, her eyes already fluttering with sleep. "I didn't realize how much I missed this." Amanda smiled. Neither did she. As the first week drew to a close, Jacob felt something shift, not just in his relationship with Lily, but in himself. The soldier in him had spent years being alert, defensive, always prepared for what could go wrong. But here, in this quiet house with the creak of floorboards and the soft hum of bedtime routines, he was beginning to remember what it meant to simply be present. Not perfect. Not always knowing the right words. But there. And somehow, that was enough. The second week of Jacob's stay began with an unusual stillness. It was Sunday morning, and the air carried that quiet anticipation only found in small towns at the start of a new week. Lily had slept in, and Amanda was still upstairs, leaving Jacob alone in the kitchen, stirring pancake batter with a focus more intense than the task required. The house, for once, felt like it belonged to him again. The coffee brewing on the counter, the hum of the refrigerator, the light streaming through the window above the sink, it all grounded him in a way that no morning formation or base alarm ever had. He was pouring the first circle of batter onto the pan when he heard Lily's light footsteps on the stairs. She entered the room wearing her favorite blue hoodie, sleeves pulled all the way over her hands, hair a little messy from sleep. "Smells like pancakes," she said, rubbing one eye. "You guessed right," Jacob replied. "Chef special this morning. Would you like 2 or 3? She shrugged, then sat at the table. "3. If they're small." Jacob smirked and nodded. As he worked, Lily sat quietly, picking at a stray thread on her sleeve. She seemed distracted, eyes fixed on something that wasn't in the room. "Everything okay?" he asked, flipping a pancake. She nodded, but too quickly. He set a plate down in front of her. "You sure?" Lily pushed her sleeve up slightly to reach for the syrup. That's when he saw it again, faint, reddish patches along the inside of her arm, near the elbow crease. Not scratches, not bruises. They looked inflamed, irritated. He kept his voice calm. "Is that still from art class?" She froze for a moment, eyes flicking up to his, then down again. "It's nothing." Jacob pulled out the chair across from her and sat down, elbows resting on the table. "Lily, you know I'm not mad, right? I just want to make sure you're okay." She hesitated, chewing her bottom lip. Then, in a small voice, "Sometimes it gets itchy. I don't mean to scratch it." "You're not in trouble," he assured her. "Does it hurt?" "A little. But it's worse when I'm nervous. Mom says it's called eczema." Jacob nodded slowly. "That makes sense. She mentioned it." Lily looked relieved that he wasn't upset, but her eyes still held something back. He could see it, she wasn't just talking about a skin condition. There was more behind the way she curled her hands into fists or flinched slightly when the conversation turned to school. Jacob leaned forward. "Do you feel nervous a lot?" She shrugged. "Not always. But sometimes?" She nodded. "Is it because of something happening at school?" he asked carefully. Lily didn't respond right away. She pushed a piece of pancake around her plate, then set her fork down. "Sometimes the kids don't want to play with me. They say I'm weird." "Weird how?" Jacob's voice was steady, but his pulse picked up. "They say I talk too much about stars and planets. And that I draw weird pictures. And, one girl told me my arms were gross." Jacob's heart sank. "That's not okay, Lily. None of that is okay. I didn't tell Mom," she added quickly. "I didn't want her to think I was being dramatic." "You're not being dramatic," Jacob said. "You're being honest. And I'm really proud of you for that." Lily looked at him, her face softening. "I felt like that too, you know," he added. "Out of place. Like I didn't belong. Even when you were a soldier? Especially when I was a soldier, Jacob said with a small smile. But then I learned that the things that make us different are usually the things that make us special. Lily didn't answer, but the tightness in her shoulders seemed to loosen. Later that day, Amanda joined them in the living room, holding a small bottle of prescription cream. "Lily, time to put this on," she said gently. Jacob watched as his daughter rolled up her sleeves without complaint. Amanda applied the cream carefully, the motion practiced and patient. He hadn't seen it done before, and there was something sobering about how routine it had become for them. "She scratches more when she's anxious," Amanda said to him. "It's gotten better since she started sleeping through the night again." "She wasn't before?" Amanda shook her head. "She used to wake up around 2 or 3 in the morning. Wouldn't say why. I'd find her sitting in the hallway sometimes, knees to her chest." Jacob felt something deep in his chest tighten. "I wish I'd known." "I didn't want to make you feel guilty," she replied. "But now that you're here, maybe she feels safer." That night, after dinner, Jacob found Lily on the back porch with her sketchpad. She had drawn a planet with rings that looked like ribbons, surrounded by stars shaped like tiny animals. "Do you want to talk about the girls at school?" he asked. She didn't look up. "Not really." "Okay," he said, sitting beside her. "Can I tell you something, then?" She nodded. "When I was your age, I had a birthmark on my arm that I hated. It was dark and weird-shaped, and I used to hide it all the time. I thought it made me different in a bad way." "What happened to it?" "Nothing," he said. "It's still there. But now I see it differently. I think it's part of what makes me me." Lily looked down at her arms, then up at him. "Do you think people will stop calling me weird?" "I think people will always find reasons to pick on someone," Jacob said gently. "But I also think the people who matter won't care about your arms. They'll care about your heart." She didn't reply, but she leaned against his side. They sat in silence for a long time, watching the last traces of daylight fade into night. The next morning, Jacob was surprised when Lily asked him to walk her all the way to her classroom. She held his hand as they passed through the crowded hallway. Several kids looked their way, but Lily didn't seem to notice. At the door, she turned to him. "I want to bring my drawings to class tomorrow." "Do it," he said. "Show them who you are." She gave a small smile. "Okay." As she disappeared inside, Jacob felt something shift, something subtle, but real. For the first time since he'd come back, he saw the possibility of confidence flicker in her steps. It wasn't bold, not yet. But it was beginning. When he got home, Amanda was waiting on the porch with a cup of tea. "She seems different today." "She's starting to believe me," Jacob said. "That she's okay just the way she is." Amanda looked down at her mug. "Thank you for talking to her. She's easy to talk to. When she lets you in." Amanda smiled. "That's the trick, isn't it? Knowing when to stay close, and when to give space." Jacob nodded. "I'm still learning." The truth about the marks wasn't something explosive or mysterious, it was something quiet and internal, born of pressure and misunderstanding and the fear of not being accepted. But now, with each shared moment, each honest conversation, Jacob could see those invisible weights beginning to lift. Healing, he realized, doesn't come all at once. Sometimes, it arrives in whispers, in the courage to speak, in the strength to stay, and in the quiet promise that love, when constant, can soften even the harshest edges. It was Monday afternoon, the start of a new school week, and the living room table was once again scattered with worksheets, colored pencils, and half-finished drawings of robots with flower hats. Lily sat at her usual spot, brows furrowed in concentration as she worked through a reading comprehension exercise. Jacob sat across from her, sipping water and resisting the urge to help too quickly. She was capable, he reminded himself. She just needed time. Amanda was upstairs finishing a call for work, leaving the two of them to their quiet rhythm, pencil scratching, pages flipping, Jacob occasionally glancing out the window at the fading sun. I can't figure out this one, Lily said, tapping a question with her eraser. It says, what is the main idea of the paragraph, but they all sound like they could be right. Jacob leaned forward and read the short passage. Then, instead of giving the answer, he asked, if you had to explain this to someone who didn't read it, what would you say it was about? Lily thought for a moment, then replied with a few clear sentences that summarized the idea perfectly. He smiled. There's your answer. Her face lit up with realization. Oh. That makes sense. Before she could move to the next question, her pencil rolled off the table. She ducked under to grab it, and when she came back up, something small fluttered out from between the pages of her notebook. A folded piece of paper, worn at the creases, landed near her elbow. Jacob reached for it before she could react. What's this? Lily's expression froze. Just a note. He hesitated, gauging her reaction. Can I read it? She gave a small nod, clearly reluctant. Jacob unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was uneven, with certain letters written backward and others overly large. It read, "You can sit by me at recess if you want. We don't have to talk. Just be quiet together. No name. No date. Just that short, honest invitation." Jacob looked at Lily. Who wrote this? She shrugged. A girl named Naomi. She's in my class. Is she your friend? I don't know, Lily said, fidgeting. We sit near each other sometimes. She's really quiet. But last week I was sitting alone during recess and she passed me the note when no one was looking. Jacob refolded it carefully, then set it on the table. That was kind of her. Lily nodded slowly. I wanted to say yes, but I didn't know how. I just didn't go over. Did she say anything after that? No, Lily said, staring at the note. She just stopped looking at me. Jacob could sense the heaviness in her voice. That lingering guilt of missed connection, a chance at friendship left unanswered. It's not too late, he said gently. You could talk to her tomorrow. Or just sit near her. You don't even have to say much. I don't want to be weird, Lily whispered. Jacob gave her a serious look. Being kind isn't weird. Wanting company isn't weird. Not knowing what to say, definitely not weird. That note says she probably feels the same way you do. Lily looked at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Maybe I'll bring her one of my stickers. She likes cats. That sounds like a good idea. Later that evening, Amanda joined them at the table. Jacob handed her the note without a word, and she read it quickly. She's been carrying it around? Amanda asked quietly. Jacob nodded. It slipped out of her notebook. Amanda looked at Lily, who was now sorting her colored pencils by shade. I think that girl might be more like Lily than we realized. I hope Lily sees that too. That night, after Lily was asleep, Jacob stayed up, staring at the ceiling in the guest room. His mind kept going back to the note, how delicate it felt, how much weight it carried in just a few short words. When you were 8 years old, recess was not just playtime. It was politics. It was survival. It was learning where you stood in the hierarchy of voices and laughter and lunchboxes. He thought about the letters he used to write to Amanda during his first deployment. Some of them had been short, almost silly. But the act of writing them, folding them, sealing them into envelopes, it had given him something to hold on to. Maybe Lily had felt that way too. The next morning, she surprised both of them. She came down dressed and ready before either Jacob or Amanda had called for her. In her hand, a small square of pink paper with something drawn on it. What's that? Jacob asked. A note for Naomi, Lily said. It has a cat on it. Jacob grinned. You're braver than you think. She didn't smile, but there was determination in her face. At school drop-off, she held his hand a little tighter, but when they reached the building, she looked up at him and said, I want to walk in alone today. He knelt beside her, kissed the top of her head, and said, "You've got this." Amanda had to leave for a client meeting that afternoon, so Jacob picked Lily up again. When she came out, he could tell something was different. She wasn't beaming, but there was a calmness in the way she walked, a quiet satisfaction. "How'd it go?" he asked as they climbed into the car. "I gave her the note," Lily said. "And?" She smiled. "She didn't say anything, but we sat together at recess." Jacob nodded, hiding the emotion welling in his chest. "That's amazing. We didn't talk. Just sat. But it was nice. Sometimes just having someone nearby makes all the difference." Lily looked out the window, her fingers tracing invisible shapes on the glass. "I think we might sit together again tomorrow." Back at home, she went straight to her room. When Jacob peeked in an hour later, she was drawing, this time a sketch of two girls sitting on a bench, surrounded by stars. It was quiet and tender, the lines softer than her usual bold strokes. At dinner, Amanda asked her how school had gone, and Lily gave a simple, "good," before going back to her mashed potatoes. But both adults noticed the shift, small, but unmistakable. After Lily had gone to bed, Amanda stood with Jacob by the kitchen sink, drying dishes while he rinsed. "I think this was a turning point," she said. "You being here. Her finding someone who understands." Jacob nodded. "It's like she's breathing easier now. She needed that. And I think maybe, you did too." He didn't answer right away. But as he looked out into the darkened yard, he felt the truth of it settle deep within him. That note had been forgotten in her notebook, maybe lost between math problems and spelling lists. But it hadn't been thrown away. It had been folded, kept, hidden, waiting for the right moment. Some words don't need to be loud to change something. Some invitations are whispered, not spoken. And some friendships begin with nothing more than the quiet agreement to simply sit, and not feel so alone. By the middle of the second week, the quiet confidence Jacob had started to notice in Lily had begun to ripple beyond their home. The note to Naomi had become more than a small moment of courage, it had opened a door. Lily wasn't transformed overnight, but she no longer seemed to disappear into the background of her own life. She walked with a bit more purpose, responded a bit faster, smiled a bit easier. On Wednesday evening, as Jacob was organizing the laundry in the guest room, he heard a knock on the doorframe. Lily stood there holding a crumpled paper in her hand, looking both excited and uncertain. "We're doing a science project at school," she said. Jacob put down the basket of clothes. "That sounds fun. What kind of project?" "It's for the Science Discovery Fair. We have to make something and explain how it works." He nodded. "Very cool. What's your idea?" She unfolded the paper and handed it to him. "A model of the solar system. But made from stuff people usually throw away." Jacob studied the sketch. 8 planets, plus Pluto, labeled carefully with a tiny arrow that read, "Still counts." Each was represented by something different: bottle caps, a torn tennis ball, an old light bulb. A long piece of yarn connected them all to the sun, which she'd drawn as a large orange circle made from what looked like part of a juice carton. "This is awesome," Jacob said, impressed. "Recycled planets." She smiled. "We're allowed to have help if we do it at home. I thought maybe you'd want to help." He stood up immediately. "Absolutely." They spent the next hour gathering materials. Amanda gave them permission to search the attic, and soon the living room was covered in odds and ends, empty containers, scraps of cardboard, broken toys, and half-used rolls of duct tape. Lily moved through the mess like a designer in a workshop, selecting and rejecting items with quiet determination. Jacob watched her, amazed by the intensity with which she worked. He offered suggestions when she seemed stuck, but mostly he just followed her lead. She explained the distance of planets using string, adjusted the orbit shapes with bent coat hangers, and used leftover glitter to mark asteroid belts. By the end of the night, they had the beginnings of something truly special. Amanda passed through the living room as they were cleaning up. "You two look like you just built a spaceship." "Not quite," Jacob said. "But close." Lily held up the incomplete model. We're going to finish tomorrow. I want to make sure I get the sizes right. Jupiter has to be the biggest, but I still need to find something for Saturn's rings. I might have something, Amanda said. Check the sewing box tomorrow. I think there's an old embroidery hoop in there. Lily nodded eagerly, then yawned. Okay. I'll go to bed. But this is going to be the best one there. The next day, Jacob picked her up from school a little earlier so they could finish the project before dinner. She was unusually quiet in the car, eyes fixed on the road ahead. Everything all right? He asked. Sort of, she said. Some of the other kids are making really big projects. One boy is doing a volcano that actually smokes. Jacob glanced at her. Are you worried yours won't be good enough? Lily shrugged. It's just different. Different can be better, he said. Especially when it's thoughtful. You didn't just make planets, you made them out of things no one else would think to use. That's pretty brilliant. She didn't respond right away, but she smiled a little. Back at the house, they got to work. With Amanda's embroidery hoop secured around a foam ball wrapped in aluminum foil, Saturn came to life. Mars was a red bottle cap painted over with clay. Earth was a marble encased in paper, with blue and green marker lines that Lily insisted on perfecting herself. Once the planets were mounted on wire arms and arranged in correct order around the sun, Lily stepped back to admire their work. We should name it, she said. Name the solar system? Not the planets, the whole thing. Like it's a ship. Jacob thought for a moment. What about the Orbit Express? Lily shook her head. Too silly. What about Galaxy Garden? She wrinkled her nose. He smiled. All right, what's your idea? Lily tapped her chin. How about the Recycliverse? Jacob laughed. Now that's a name. They made a small sign and taped it to the base. Lily wrote out a paragraph explaining the project in neat block letters. Then they packed the entire model carefully in a box, cushioned with newspaper and bubble wrap. The next morning, Jacob walked Lily into the school building, helping her carry the box. The hallway buzzed with kids carrying projects, posters, trifold displays, elaborate machines built with parent assistance. A few kids stared at Lily's model. Some looked curious. One boy snickered. She made hers out of garbage, he said under his breath. Lily flinched slightly, but Jacob leaned down. Don't listen to that. Inside the classroom, they placed the project on a long table with the others. Lily looked at the rest, bubbling volcanoes, miniature greenhouses, a robot made of Legos, but instead of backing away, she stood straighter. Her teacher, Mrs. Chambers, approached with a warm smile. This looks amazing, Lily. I love the use of materials. Lily beamed. It's called the Recycliverse. I can't wait to read your explanation, Mrs. Chambers said, moving on. As the students gathered around to set up, Naomi approached from the other side of the room. She glanced at the model, then at Lily. That's cool, she said softly. I like the Saturn rings. Lily smiled. Thanks. Want to help me set up the sign? Naomi nodded, and for the next few minutes, they worked side by side, saying very little but clearly comfortable. Jacob stayed by the door until everything was ready. He caught Amanda's eye as she arrived a few minutes later, and they stood together watching Lily navigate the room, showing her project to curious classmates, explaining how each piece had come from something once forgotten. She looks like she belongs here, Amanda said quietly. She does, Jacob replied. She always did. She just needed a chance to show it. That evening, back at home, they celebrated with ice cream and homemade sundaes. Lily talked non-stop about the other projects, laughing about the exploding volcano and describing a girl's butterfly habitat with impressive detail. When she finally went to bed, the Recycliverse placed proudly on her bookshelf, Jacob lingered in the hallway. He peeked in just as she was turning off her lamp. Hey, he said. I'm proud of you. For what? For showing who you are. For making something beautiful. She smiled sleepily. Thanks for helping me. Jacob nodded. Anytime. As he turned to leave, Lily's voice stopped him. Do you think I can really be a scientist one day? He turned back. I don't think it, I know it. And in that small room, filled with scattered crayons, planet posters, and the quiet breathing of dreams beginning to form, a little girl finally started to believe it too. The following Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp air that hinted at the changing season. The sun was low, casting a golden hue across the neighborhood lawns, and the sky was painted in gentle blues with streaks of ivory clouds. After a week of school, projects, and subtle emotional shifts, Jacob decided it was time for something slower, just the two of them, no schedule, no goals. A walk in the park seemed perfect. Lily had spent most of the morning in her room reading, curled under a blanket with her latest library book. When Jacob knocked on her door and asked if she wanted to go out for a bit, she peeked out, blinked like someone emerging from another world, and nodded. Can we bring snacks? She asked. Of course, Jacob replied. Amanda helped them pack a small bag, apple slices, crackers, water bottles, and handed Lily a scarf just in case the wind picked up. As they left the house, Amanda lingered at the doorway watching them go, one hand resting gently on the frame. The park was only a 10-minute walk from the house, a quiet green space nestled behind the elementary school. Trees lined the edges like silent guards, and a narrow path wound its way through benches, flower beds, and a small wooden bridge that crossed a slow-moving creek. Lily walked with a lightness that was new to Jacob. Not the cautious steps she had taken during their first walks together, but a quiet confidence, as if the world had grown a bit softer. She skipped a few steps ahead, then slowed to match his pace, hands buried in her coat pockets. They found a bench near the playground and sat for a while, watching other children climb, slide, and swing. Lily didn't rush to join them, she never did, but she seemed content just to observe, her eyes following the arcs of motion like constellations in a quiet sky. After a few minutes, she pulled out a small notebook from her coat pocket. I started writing a list, she said. Jacob leaned toward her. A list of what? Things I want to do, she replied. Not big stuff. Just, things I think would feel nice. He smiled. Can I hear some of them? She opened the notebook and read aloud. Number 1, plant a flower and name it. Number 2, make a pancake that's shaped like something. Number 3, read a whole book without skipping any parts. Number 4, learn to whistle better. Number 5, talk to someone new and not feel weird about it. Jacob listened, nodding with each one. That's a great list, he said. You're halfway through already, I think. She glanced at him. You really think so? I know so. You already talked to Naomi. That's number 5, right? Lily looked down at her shoes. Yeah. But I didn't say much. You didn't have to, he replied. You showed up. That's the biggest part. She was quiet for a moment, then added, I think I want to add one more. He waited. Number 6, build something with you before you go. Jacob didn't answer right away. He looked at her, realizing how deeply she was starting to understand the temporary nature of his visit. He hadn't told her the exact day he was leaving again, none of them had, but the awareness was beginning to settle in the spaces between their conversations. What should we build? He asked finally. Lily shrugged. Something small. Something we can finish. He nodded. Let's think on it. They sat together in comfortable silence, sharing the snacks Amanda had packed. A pair of squirrels darted across the path ahead, and Lily chuckled as one chased the other up a tree. Do you remember the first time you took me to a park? She asked suddenly. Jacob thought back. Was it the one with the duck pond? Lily nodded. I was 4. You let me feed them crackers, and one of them nipped my finger. I cried, and you told me it meant the duck liked me. Jacob laughed softly. That was probably not true, but it worked. It did, Lily said. After that, I told everyone I had a pet duck. You were fearless back then. She shook her head. I'm still scared sometimes. Being scared doesn't mean you're not brave, he said. It means you care enough for something to matter. She looked at him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she said, Do you get scared, too? All the time, Jacob admitted. When I'm away, I worry about everything I miss. Birthdays. First days of school. All the things you might forget to tell me. Or that I'll forget to ask. Lily was quiet, taking that in. I don't want to forget anything, she said. Me neither. A wind picked up, and Lily tucked her scarf a little tighter. Across the park, a group of children began playing tag, their voices echoing against the trees. Do you think it's okay that I don't want to play with them? Lily asked. Jacob considered his answer carefully. I think it's okay to be exactly who you are. You don't have to do things just because other people do. But I also think you're allowed to change your mind, too. If one day you feel like joining, then do. If not, that's fine too. She nodded, as if that settled something for her. As they began walking back home, Lily paused at the wooden bridge that spanned the creek. She leaned over the side, watching the water move slowly beneath them. If we build something, she said, can it be a tiny boat? Like one that floats? Jacob followed her gaze. I think that's a great idea. They stood there a few minutes longer, watching fallen leaves float gently down the current, their quiet drifting strangely reassuring. When they got home, Amanda had soup on the stove, the smell of rosemary and carrots warming the entire house. Lily ran to wash her hands, and Jacob lingered in the kitchen, helping Amanda slice bread. She seemed lighter, Amanda said. She asked me if we could build something before I leave, Jacob replied. Amanda's hands slowed. Did you tell her when you're going? Not yet. She didn't press further. But the silence between them held the weight of the question. After dinner, Jacob and Lily drew plans for their tiny boat. She insisted it have a sail and a flag. He suggested adding weight to the bottom so it wouldn't tip. Together, they sketched out their ideas, arguing playfully over the color of the flag. She wanted purple, he wanted green, before settling on a combination. When bedtime came, Lily climbed into bed with her notebook and read her list one more time. I'm going to add, build a boat, right after, plant a flower, she said. Jacob smiled. We'll start tomorrow. As he turned off her light, she said softly, I'm glad we went to the park. Me too, he whispered. The door clicked gently shut behind him, but the connection they'd forged in the open air lingered, a bond growing stronger with every shared moment, every word unspoken but deeply understood. By midweek, the weather had shifted. Thick gray clouds had settled over the town, muting the skies and drawing a quiet stillness over the streets. The air held that heaviness that often preceded a storm, dense, damp, and expectant. Lily, ever attuned to the mood of her surroundings, seemed more withdrawn that morning. She ate her cereal without speaking, her eyes fixed on the slow swirl of milk in her bowl. Amanda had left early for a meeting, and Jacob sat across the table, observing his daughter without pressing her. Over the past days, he had come to recognize the signals, small signs, gestures, and absences of speech that often spoke louder than her words. He didn't ask her what was wrong. Instead, he waited. After breakfast, Lily stood and reached for her raincoat without needing to be told. Jacob grabbed his jacket and the umbrella, and together they stepped out into the cool wind. The school was only a few blocks away, but they walked slower than usual, the silence between them comfortable but contemplative. Halfway down the street, the sky opened suddenly. Rain fell hard and fast, loud against the umbrella. Lily laughed at the abruptness of it, but she didn't huddle against him like she usually would. Instead, she stepped out slightly into the edge of the rain, arms stretched, letting the drops hit her sleeves. Do you want to walk faster? Jacob asked. She shook her head. It feels kind of nice. He didn't argue. They arrived at the school with damp shoes and dripping coat hems. At the entrance, she paused. "Do you think it's weird that I like the rain?" she asked. Jacob looked down at her, droplets clinging to the edge of her hood. "No. I think it means you notice things other people don't." She seemed to think about that for a moment. Then she gave him a brief nod and walked inside. That afternoon, the rain hadn't let up. By the time Jacob returned to pick her up, puddles had formed in the schoolyard, and the water flowed in quick streams along the sidewalks. Lily was waiting just inside the doors, her coat zipped to her chin, her backpack hugged tightly to her chest. Back home, the windows fogged with the temperature change. Amanda wasn't due back for another few hours, so Jacob warmed up soup and made grilled cheese, trying to coax a smile out of Lily with his exaggerated attempts at flipping sandwiches like a chef on television. She giggled, but it was softer than usual. After lunch, she wandered into the living room and curled up by the window, drawing spirals into the condensation on the glass. Jacob joined her with a book in hand, but didn't open it. Instead, he sat in silence, watching her, giving her space to speak. It came suddenly. "I don't like how I feel sometimes." He set the book down gently. "Tell me what you mean." She kept her eyes on the foggy window. "It's like everyone else has a manual for how to act. But I didn't get one. So when people laugh, I don't always know why. Or when they're talking, I'm still thinking about the first thing someone said. And then I feel behind." Jacob listened without interrupting. The rain provided a steady rhythm in the background, like a quiet drumbeat echoing her words. "Sometimes I feel like I'm not supposed to be like this. Like I should be better at things. Talking. Playing. Not crying when I get scared." He moved closer but didn't reach out yet. "Lily," he said gently, "do you think there's something wrong with you?" She nodded, barely. Jacob took a slow breath, choosing each word with care. "There is nothing wrong with you. Not one thing. You are thoughtful, creative, kind. You see the world in a way most people never do. That doesn't mean you're behind. It means you're unique." She turned toward him, her eyes glistening. "But I get nervous. I scratch my arms. I think about things too much." "That's not something bad," Jacob said. "That's something real. A lot of people feel the same way, they just don't talk about it." She looked away again. "Sometimes I want to talk, but I get scared that if I say what I feel, people will think I'm strange. So I keep it inside. And then it gets heavy." Jacob nodded slowly. "You've been carrying all of that by yourself." She didn't answer, but he saw the answer in her posture. "I wish I could take that weight from you," he said. "But since I can't, I want to help you carry it. However you need. Even if it's just sitting with you in the rain." That broke something open. Lily leaned into him, arms wrapping around his middle. Jacob held her, his chin resting gently on the top of her head. "I'm tired of pretending I'm okay all the time," she whispered. "You don't have to pretend with me," he replied. "You never have to pretend." They stayed like that for a long while, the room dim with cloud light, the only sound the patter of rain on the windows. Later, when she finally pulled away, her eyes were puffy but calm. She looked lighter, like she had put down something invisible that had been dragging behind her for weeks. "Can I tell Mom?" she asked. "Of course," Jacob said. "She'll want to know how you feel. She loves you deeply." "I know," Lily said. "But sometimes it's easier to say it to you first." That night, Amanda arrived home and immediately noticed the change. Lily greeted her with a long hug, then took her hand and led her upstairs, saying only, "Can we talk for a little?" Jacob stayed downstairs, trusting the quiet that followed. When Amanda came back down nearly an hour later, she sat on the couch beside him, wiping her eyes. "She told me everything," she said. "About how she feels. About how she thinks people see her." Jacob waited. "She said you helped her say it." He nodded. "She did the hard part." Amanda smiled through the tears. "Thank you for being here. For seeing her. Jacob leaned back against the couch. That's all I've wanted to do. The rain continued through the night, but it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt necessary, cleansing, comforting. Outside, the gutters flowed like small rivers, and the trees shivered quietly in the wind. Inside, something had shifted, not fixed, not finished, but healing. Real. And for the first time in a long while, Lily slept through the night without waking. The rain had stopped by morning, and in its place came the kind of crisp, early autumn sunlight that slipped gently through the curtains and cast soft golden light across the floors. The air still held a chill, but it was the kind that encouraged people to linger under blankets a little longer or wrap themselves tighter in a scarf before heading out. Jacob stood in the kitchen stirring oatmeal on the stove, the wooden spoon moving slowly as he read the directions for the third time. Amanda sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, typing between sips of coffee. Lily was upstairs, getting ready for school on her own, something that had slowly become her habit over the past few days. It had been 3 mornings since the conversation during the storm. 3 nights of peaceful sleep. 3 days of quiet, honest openness. She's been calmer, Amanda said softly, not looking up from her screen. Not quiet the way she used to be, but grounded. Like something inside her finally found a place to sit. Jacob nodded. I think naming it helped. Talking about it out loud. Amanda closed her laptop gently and gave him her full attention. I've been thinking about finding someone she can talk to. A counselor, maybe. Just someone she can keep opening up to when you're not here. I think that's a great idea, Jacob replied. We've made progress, but it's still just the beginning. She even asked me last night if I thought she was weird, Amanda continued. I told her no. I told her she was thoughtful. And layered. That not every kid her age has the same way of thinking, and that's a gift. Jacob glanced toward the staircase. Did she believe you? I think she wanted to, Amanda said. And I think she will, eventually. Lily came down a moment later with her backpack slung over one shoulder and her notebook in her hand. She placed it on the table, flipping to a page with a drawing of a tiny boat, a planet flag at the top of its mast. The sails were cut from what looked like napkins. She pointed at the sketch with quiet pride. Can we start today? She asked. Absolutely, Jacob said. After school. Amanda smiled, gently closing the notebook. Let's go, sailor. They rode together to school that morning, and the ride was different, less tentative, more conversational. Lily talked about a new project her teacher had introduced, something about animal habitats. She wanted to make a poster about deep-sea creatures, and Jacob offered to help her look up images of bioluminescent jellyfish. At drop-off, she hugged them both, then turned to Amanda. Do I still have that doctor's appointment next Friday? Amanda nodded. Yes. Just a quick check-in. Lily nodded too, as if she was trying to prepare for it ahead of time. After she disappeared into the building, Jacob and Amanda lingered outside the car. She's starting to plan for things, Jacob said. That's a good sign, right? It's a great sign, Amanda replied. Back home, Jacob spent part of the day sorting through the shed, looking for materials they could use for the boat. He found an old drawer that could be repurposed as the base, a roll of twine, several pieces of scrap wood, and 2 narrow dowels that would serve perfectly as masts. By the time Lily returned from school, he had laid everything out on the porch, tools organized, a tarp spread across the floor. Her eyes lit up when she saw the setup. You started without me, she said. I only gathered the pieces, Jacob replied. The building part is yours. They spent the next hour designing and building, Lily completely focused. She measured the planks, sanded the edges, and helped hammer the small nails into place with Jacob's guidance. The tiny boat began to take shape, a boxy little vessel with a raised front and a hollow center that she lined with paper to keep it dry. She taped a tiny purple flag to the tallest mast and named the ship Hope 1. That evening, Amanda joined them on the porch with a thermos of hot cocoa, watching as they painted the hull and decorated the sails with drawings of stars and swirls. You've been busy, she said. It's almost ready to sail, Lily replied proudly. We just have to test if it floats. We'll go to the creek in the park tomorrow, Jacob said. It'll be our trial run. Amanda looked at the boat, then at Lily. It's beautiful. It's strong, Lily added. That's what matters. The next morning was Saturday. They ate breakfast together and packed the boat carefully in a cardboard box with towels for padding. Amanda brought a blanket and a thermos of tea, and they headed to the park just after 9. The creek water was calm and clear, gently flowing beneath the wooden bridge. Jacob knelt beside the water's edge and helped Lily set the boat into place. Ready? He asked. She nodded. They released it slowly, and for a moment, it wobbled uncertainly. Then it steadied, bobbing gently along the current. Lily stepped back, her hands clasped together in front of her chest, eyes wide as she watched it drift. It floats, she whispered. It does, Jacob said. You made that. They followed it down the path as it moved, slow and proud, catching light on its painted sides. When it finally bumped gently into a small branch and stopped, Lily reached out and retrieved it with care, placing it back in the box like it was made of glass. It's going on my shelf, she said. Next to the Recyclaverse. They sat under a tree, sharing tea and cookies Amanda had packed. Lily lay back on the blanket and stared up through the branches. Can this be our new routine? She asked. Not just this. But, making things. Talking. Jacob looked at Amanda, then back at Lily. We can't do it exactly like this all the time, he said honestly. But we can keep parts of it. We can find new ways to stay close, even when I'm not here. Lily didn't respond right away. Then she said, maybe I'll send you pictures of the things I build. And you can send me ones too. That's a deal, Jacob said. Amanda nodded. We'll help you stay connected. Always. The rest of the weekend passed with the ease of a well-loved pattern. Meals were shared without hurry, walks were taken without destination, and laughter came easily, filling corners of the house that had been quiet for too long. By Sunday night, the boat sat proudly on Lily's shelf, her notebook beside it, now with new entries. Under her list of things she wanted to do, she had added a new line. Number 7, build something that lasts, even after it's done. And somewhere deep inside her, she had started to believe that she had. Spring in Ridgefield arrived not with grand parades of blossoms, but with subtle changes, a little more warmth in the mornings, a little more gold in the afternoon light, and trees that began to whisper green at their edges. With the change of season came the annual spring festival at Lily's school, an event that Amanda had described as a community-wide gathering, complete with games, music, food trucks, and student performances. It had been on the calendar since the beginning of the month, but Jacob hadn't brought it up with Lily until the week of the event. He knew better now than to assume she'd be excited about anything involving crowds or a stage. When he mentioned it over breakfast on Monday, Lily simply nodded and said, "We're doing a play in our class. Just a small one." Amanda looked up from her coffee. "Do you want us to come watch?" Lily hesitated. "It's not a big role. I just say one line. I might not even have to go on stage." "That's all right," Jacob said gently. "We'd still like to be there. If you want us to." She didn't answer right away, but then gave a small nod and added, "Okay. But please don't sit in the front row." The rest of the week passed quickly. Lily seemed calmer than Jacob had expected, but there were moments, slightly tighter shoulders, longer pauses when answering questions, a tendency to chew her lower lip, that told him she was processing more than she let on. Still, she worked on her costume with Amanda, practicing her line in a whisper when she thought no one was listening. Jacob caught it once, muttered under her breath like a spell, "The flowers bloom because they know the sun will return." On the morning of the festival, the house buzzed with a quiet, nervous energy. Amanda packed a bag with snacks and water, and Lily wore a soft yellow dress with a felt flower pinned to the front. She looked both proud and uncomfortable in it, like she couldn't decide if it made her look like a character or just like herself in disguise. "You look like spring," Jacob said. She gave him a wary smile. You won't tell anyone that, right? Not a soul. The school grounds had been transformed into a makeshift fairground. Streamers lined the fences, music floated from the speakers, and the scent of popcorn and grilled cheese lingered in the air. Families wandered between booths, children raced across the field with painted faces, and volunteers handed out programs at the entrance. Lily clutched hers tightly as they walked through the crowd. Her class's performance was scheduled for the early afternoon on the outdoor stage, a simple wooden platform surrounded by folding chairs. Jacob and Amanda set up their spot 3 rows back, just as requested. Lily disappeared with her classmates near the stage, leaving Jacob watching the other children run around with balloon animals and paper crafts. "She's handling this better than I thought," Amanda said. "She's doing more than handling it," Jacob replied. "She's showing up. That's a big deal." When the time for the performance came, Jacob saw her peek out from behind the curtain twice. The first time, her expression was unreadable. The second time, she seemed to be counting the seats, as if reassuring herself that they hadn't moved. The play itself was a short one, about the changing of the seasons, with each student representing a different part of nature. Lily, dressed as a flower, stood on the far edge of the stage. When it came time for her line, she stepped forward with hesitation, glanced toward the crowd, then took a breath. The flowers bloom because they know the sun will return. The line wasn't loud, but it was clear. Her voice didn't shake. Jacob felt a lump form in his throat. Amanda clapped softly beside him, her eyes already misting. After the play, the children ran to meet their families. Lily approached slowly, clearly unsure how much attention she wanted. Jacob knelt to meet her. "You did great," he said. "Really great." Amanda leaned in with a proud smile. "You looked like you were meant to be up there." "I only said one line," Lily replied, but the way she said it lacked the self-deprecation of before. It was simply a fact, no longer a reason to hide. "One line can mean a lot," Jacob said. And that one meant everything. They spent the next hour exploring the festival. Lily played a bean-bag toss game and won a small plastic dinosaur. She painted a ceramic flower pot at the art booth, choosing the same purple and green color scheme as her Recyclaverse. At the petting zoo, she fed a goat and laughed when it tried to nibble her sleeve. She even bumped into Naomi near the snack tables. The 2 girls exchanged quiet words, then stood side by side watching another classmate juggle apples near the drama club's booth. By the time the sun began to sink behind the trees, Lily was leaning against Jacob's side, her energy drained but her face content. "Can we go home now?" she asked. "Of course," he said. Back at the house, she didn't even make it through dinner. She fell asleep on the couch with her flower costume still on, arms tucked under her head. Jacob carried her upstairs and tucked her into bed while Amanda gathered the leftover food and set the kettle for tea. In Lily's room, Jacob looked around at the artifacts of the past weeks, the boat, the solar system, the sketches taped to the wall. Her notebook rested on the bedside table, a corner of it marked with a sticky note. Curious, he opened it and found a new list. This one wasn't a list of goals. It was titled, "Things That Make Me Feel Like Me." He read a few lines. Drawing stars. Purple flags. Rain on the porch. Dad's hands when he builds things. Sitting next to Naomi without needing to talk. Mom brushing my hair when she thinks I'm asleep. Saying one line, and it being enough. Jacob closed the notebook gently and left the room, the door clicking softly behind him. Downstairs, Amanda handed him a cup of tea. "She was asleep before I even took her shoes off," he said. "She's learning how to let go," Amanda replied. "That's not easy. Not for anyone." Jacob sipped his tea in silence for a moment. Then he said, "It's almost time for me to go." Amanda didn't respond immediately. "Have you told her?" "Not yet. I wanted her to have today." Amanda nodded. "Then tomorrow." Jacob watched the steam rise from his cup, then looked toward the stairs. "She'll be okay," Amanda said. "I know," Jacob replied. But it's not just about her. Amanda looked at him, understanding exactly what he meant. And in that quiet kitchen, lit only by the warm glow above the stove, they both sat with the bittersweet reality of love that endures across distance, and the cost of knowing that presence, when temporary, carries its own kind of weight. The morning after the spring festival began quietly. The house was still, filled only with the soft clinking of breakfast preparations and the occasional creak of floorboards overhead. Jacob moved about the kitchen methodically, buttering toast and stirring scrambled eggs while Amanda reviewed her notes for a video call scheduled later that morning. Neither of them had spoken yet about the conversation they'd agreed upon. But the silence between them wasn't avoidance, it was preparation. They both knew today would carry weight. Lily appeared later than usual, rubbing sleep from her eyes and still wearing her pajamas. Her hair stuck out slightly on one side, evidence of a restless but deep sleep. She gave them both a sleepy smile and sat at the table, resting her chin on her hand. "I had a dream the boat went to space," she said. Jacob looked up from the stove. "That would explain why we haven't seen it floating down the creek." Lily chuckled quietly. "There were stars and everything." The flag waved. Amanda passed her a glass of orange juice. "That sounds like a mission success." They ate in easy rhythm, but beneath the calm was a shared awareness, something unspoken, resting at the edges of the room. Jacob waited until Amanda had stepped away for her call before bringing it up. "Lily," he said gently, "can we sit outside for a minute? Just us." She hesitated, her fork halfway to her mouth. "Now?" He nodded. "Just a little while." She followed him out to the porch, the wooden boards warm from the early sun. They sat on the steps, shoulders touching, watching birds hop from branch to branch in the tree across the yard. "I have to tell you something," Jacob began. She didn't look at him, but he could tell she was listening. "My leave is almost over. I'll be going back in a few days." Her hands twisted together in her lap. "I didn't want to tell you before the festival," he continued. "I wanted you to enjoy that day. But I also don't want to hide it from you. You deserve the truth." She didn't speak for several seconds. Then, in a small voice, "How many days?" "3. Is it far?" Jacob nodded. "It's not just distance. It's another world. But I'll still be reachable. You can write to me. Call me. Send pictures." She was quiet again, chewing her lip. Then, "Will I forget what you sound like again?" "No," he said, putting an arm around her. "Not this time. Because I have something for you." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small notebook, leather-bound, with a navy blue cover. On the front was her name, pressed into the material in soft gold letters. Lily took it in her hands, turning it over carefully. "It's mine?" "All yours," Jacob said. "But here's the deal. You can fill it with anything, drawings, stories, how your day went, what you ate for lunch, what made you laugh, what made you feel sad. Whatever's on your mind." She opened to the first page. It was blank, waiting. "And then?" she asked. "And then you send it to me. When it's full. I'll read every word, every page. And I'll send you one back." "Your own notebook?" He nodded. "It'll be like talking, even when we can't talk." She flipped through the pages slowly. "Can I draw in it too?" "Please do," he said. "And when you write in it, I want you to remember that no feeling is too small. I want to hear all of it." She closed the notebook and hugged it to her chest. Jacob watched her for a moment, the way her fingers held tightly to the edges, the way her shoulders relaxed just slightly. He could see how the idea of a notebook, a thing, a physical thread between them, grounded her. They sat together in silence a while longer, until Amanda came out with her coat on, ready to leave for her appointment. She paused when she saw the notebook in Lily's lap. "Good choice," she said, glancing at Jacob. Lily stood and went inside, and Amanda stayed behind. "She'll be okay," Amanda said. "I hope so." You gave her something to hold on to. That matters. That afternoon, while Amanda worked upstairs, Jacob helped Lily personalize the first pages of her new notebook. She designed a title page in her best handwriting, "Letters to Dad." On the second page, she drew the Recyclaverse and the Hope One, side by side in the sky, with stars surrounding them. By the end of the day, she had filled 5 pages. At dinner, she read aloud one of her entries, an imaginary conversation between her and a spaceship captain who invited her to help chart new galaxies. She had given the captain Jacob's middle name. "That's me?" he asked. Lily nodded. "You always know where to go." Later that night, after Lily had gone to bed, Jacob sat with Amanda in the kitchen again, both of them quietly processing the nearing end of his visit. "She's changed," Amanda said. "I don't know if you can see it as clearly as I can, but it's not small. It's not temporary." Jacob nodded. "She found her voice. And her own pace," Amanda added. "The world asks so much from kids. To fit in, to speed up, to be louder, quicker, more normal. But she's learning that there's no shame in being deliberate. In needing space. In needing time." Jacob leaned back, exhaling slowly. "I didn't know if 2 weeks would be enough." "It wasn't about time," Amanda said. "It was about showing up." The next morning, Jacob found another note on his pillow. It wasn't in the notebook. Just a scrap of paper, folded twice, written in pencil. "You don't have to worry. I won't forget your voice this time. It's in my head. But just in case, I'm going to write it down too." He kept the note in his wallet. On her shelf, the new notebook now sat next to the Recyclaverse and the Hope One. And though Jacob hadn't left yet, the pages had already begun to hold pieces of their story, captured, safe, ready to travel across whatever distance might come next. The final morning came quietly. The house held a kind of reverent hush, like it understood what day it was. Outside, the wind was softer than usual, brushing gently against the windows, and the early light filtering through the curtains was pale and delicate. Jacob sat on the edge of the guest bed, tying his boots slowly, not because it took time, but because he wasn't ready to stand. His bag was packed. The uniform he hadn't worn since he arrived now lay folded beside it, waiting. Downstairs, he could hear the low hum of Amanda's voice, speaking softly into the phone, likely confirming the schedule for his flight. And above him, in the quiet space of her room, Lily was awake. She hadn't spoken much the night before. After brushing her teeth, she had handed Jacob the notebook, now heavier with more than a dozen pages filled. She didn't explain what she had written. She didn't need to. He promised he would read it on the plane. Now, as he stood and hoisted the bag over his shoulder, he paused outside her door and knocked gently. "Yeah," came the answer from inside. He opened the door slowly. Lily sat on her bed, fully dressed, her legs crisscrossed and her hands clasped around her notebook. She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. "Got room for a visitor?" Jacob asked. She nodded, and he stepped inside, setting his bag down just beside the door. "I thought maybe we could sit for a little," he said. She patted the bed beside her, and he sat, their shoulders almost touching. "I don't want to do goodbye," she said quietly. "Okay," Jacob said. "We won't do goodbye." They sat in silence for a long moment, each trying to memorize the feeling of the other beside them. Then, with her voice barely louder than a breath, Lily said, "What if things go back to how they were before?" Jacob turned to face her. "You mean when I wasn't here?" She nodded. "They won't," he said. "Because this time, we know what to do. We know how to talk. And we've got the notebook. We've got pictures. We've got memories we built together." Lily looked down at the notebook in her lap. "Sometimes it still feels like I'm just pretending to be brave." Jacob shook his head. "That's the thing about being brave. It's not pretending. It's doing something even when it's hard. And you've done a lot of that lately." She didn't argue. Instead, she leaned forward and opened the notebook to the very last page. There, drawn in pencil with careful precision, was a small map. It wasn't of the world, or the stars, but of her bedroom. A tiny square representing her bed. Another for the bookshelf. A dot for her window. And just beside it, near the corner of the room, was a labeled drawing of a chair. "This is where I picture you," she said. "When I'm writing." Jacob swallowed. "That's a good spot. Quiet. Cozy. Great view. I tried drawing your boots too," she added. "But they just looked like potatoes." He laughed. "Potato boots are still boots." Then, after a pause, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It wasn't neat like her notebook, it had creases, smudges, and a bent corner. He handed it to her. "What's this?" "A promise," he said. "Open it later. After I've left." She held it in her hands like it was made of glass. "You're really going today?" "I am." She took a deep breath, then nodded once. "Okay." They walked downstairs together. Amanda was waiting by the door, her face calm but her eyes already a little glassy. She reached for Lily's coat, then paused. "Do you want to come with us to the airport?" she asked Lily gently. Lily hesitated, then shook her head. "I want to stay here." Amanda didn't press her. She simply knelt and kissed the top of her daughter's head. "I'll bring you something from the airport," Jacob said. "Potato chips?" "Absolutely. And maybe, something else," she added. "Something small?" Jacob gave her a slow, steady look. "I'll find something perfect." Outside, the sky had cleared. The wind carried the scent of damp grass and distant blossoms. As Amanda loaded Jacob's bag into the car, he crouched in front of Lily and held her hands in his. "I meant what I wrote in the letter," he said. "I'll always be with you, even when I'm not here. You'll hear me in your head when you need to. You'll see me in the stars, in the drawings you make. In the way you speak your truth." She looked at him, her chin trembling. "Promise?" He squeezed her hands. "I promise." They held the moment for as long as they could. Then Jacob stood, stepped into the car, and gave her one final wave before they pulled away. Back inside, Lily returned to her room. She sat on the edge of her bed and slowly unfolded the paper Jacob had given her. Written in his familiar, slightly slanted handwriting were the words, "You are enough. Exactly as you are. And I will always be proud of you. Wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, you are in my heart." That's a promise no distance can break. At the bottom, he had drawn a small circle, a planet, and beside it, a paper boat with a purple flag. Beneath that, 3 words, "More soon. Always." Lily pressed the letter to her chest and sat in silence, letting it settle inside her like the roots of something steady, something safe. That night, she opened her notebook again. She didn't write about being sad. She didn't write about missing him. Instead, she started with a new list. It wasn't about goals, or things she wanted to do, or what made her feel like herself. This one was titled, "Things I Know Now." The first entry read, "I am not too much. And I am not too little. I am just right. And beneath that, I am brave, even when I don't feel like it. Especially then." The pages turned. The night passed. And upstairs, in a small room filled with stars and quiet victories, Lily kept writing. The house had adjusted. Not completely, not in a way that made Jacob's absence feel invisible, but in a way that acknowledged it gently, almost respectfully. Days moved forward. Mornings came with their quiet routines. The silence left behind wasn't empty, but full of memory and something new, presence in absence. Lily no longer tiptoed around the ache of missing her father. It was there, steady and undeniable, but she had learned to carry it without letting it weigh her down. She had returned to her rituals, morning stretches on her bedroom floor, brushing her hair with that firm, thoughtful precision, setting out her clothes the night before, but something was different. Amanda noticed it first. On a Thursday afternoon, she stood in the doorway of Lily's room watching her organize her bookshelf. The Recyclaverse had been carefully dusted. The Hope one had been moved slightly, angled toward the window. And the notebook, now halfway full, sat beside a new one, still wrapped in clear plastic. A gift from a teacher who had noticed Lily writing during recess. "Can I open the new one when this one's full?" Lily asked. Amanda stepped into the room. "Of course. That's what it's for." Lily paused, then turned. "Do you want to read some of it?" Amanda hesitated, unsure if this was an invitation or a test. "Just one page," Lily clarified. "Not all of it." Amanda sat beside her daughter on the bed. Lily opened the notebook to a page marked with a purple paperclip. In the center, written with her favorite blue pen, was a paragraph under the heading, "When you love two people in different ways." It read, "You can love someone far away, and someone close by. You can miss one and still laugh with the other. You can remember someone's voice while hearing someone else's laugh. It doesn't have to be a fight inside your heart. It can just be a bigger heart." Amanda didn't speak for a moment. "I wrote that after you made Coco and read that silly poem about a frog in a bow tie," Lily explained. Amanda smiled. "I remember that poem. You laughed so hard you spilled cocoa on your blanket. I think I laughed because it reminded me of Dad. He's silly like that. But your voice made it funnier." Amanda wrapped an arm around her. "Thank you for letting me read this." That weekend, Lily had a video call with Jacob. He was in uniform, seated somewhere that looked like a shared rec room with walls painted pale gray and a window just behind him. The call wasn't rushed. They had found a rhythm to it now, starting with the ordinary, moving to the small things that mattered, and ending with something hopeful. "Your handwriting got smaller," Jacob teased, holding the notebook up to the camera. "I had more to say," Lily said. "Small letters fit more thoughts." "True. And you finally drew me with real boots. No potatoes. They still look like potatoes if you squint." Jacob laughed, and Amanda, who sat just out of frame, watched the two of them exchange jokes, update each other on projects, and make quiet plans for the next notebook. It wasn't the same as having him there, but it was enough. And it was growing into something steady. After the call ended, Amanda stayed behind in the kitchen while Lily returned to her room. Jacob had said something just before the screen went dark. Not dramatic. Not heavy. Just one sentence. "You're doing a great job, Mandy." It wasn't a compliment. It was a recognition. And Amanda, standing at the sink washing dishes by hand instead of using the dishwasher, because it gave her time to think, realized how much weight those words carried. Not because she needed validation, but because she had spent so long moving silently through the world, making lunches, managing emotions, shielding Lily from the harsher edges of life, that she had forgotten how much the small acts mattered. The following Monday, Lily brought home a permission slip for a new after-school club, the Science Club, recently revived by Mrs. Chambers and a few ambitious sixth graders. "I want to join," she said. "I think I'm ready." Amanda looked over the form. "You're sure? It'll mean being around more kids again." Lily nodded. "Naomi said she's thinking about it too. We could go together. Or not. But I want to try." Amanda signed the form and tucked it into Lily's folder. That evening, Lily added a new section to her notebook, what might happen next. It wasn't a list of goals. It was a list of maybes. Possibilities. Not guarantees, but imagined futures. Join the Science Club. Build a volcano that smokes. Teach Naomi how to draw planets. Make Mom laugh so hard she cries again. Send Dad a picture of Saturn made out of cereal. The last entry read, "Have a big enough heart for all of it." Spring continued its slow unfolding. Flowers bloomed without needing to be told. Trees filled their branches again. The world, just outside their small Virginia town, kept moving. One evening, Amanda sat down with Lily in the backyard under the stars. A new habit. Quiet moments after dinner, wrapped in jackets, listening to the night. Lily looked up at the sky. You think he's seeing these same stars? Maybe not the exact same ones, Amanda said. But close enough. They sat in silence for a long while. Then Lily said, "It doesn't hurt as much now." Amanda looked at her. What doesn't? When he leaves. Amanda nodded. That's part of growing. Learning that missing someone isn't always a wound. Sometimes it's just proof that they mattered. Lily tilted her head. Do you think we'll all live in the same house again someday? I don't know, Amanda said honestly. But I think we'll always be a family, no matter what house we're in. Lily reached for her notebook. She had brought it outside, as she often did now. She flipped to a fresh page and wrote. Family doesn't mean perfect. It just means always. Amanda didn't ask to read it. She didn't need to. She watched her daughter write under the stars, steady and unafraid, and knew that whatever happened next, they would find their way through it, together. Because love, when given space to grow, doesn't shrink with distance. It expands. It shifts. It builds boats. It writes letters. It waits, it returns, and sometimes, it becomes the bridge between everything you were afraid you'd lose. And in that little backyard, under the vast sky that held both memories and possibilities, a mother, a daughter, and a father across the world continued learning what it meant to begin again. Not once. Not just once. But always.